I have to say it's a bit of a chore at this point. I'm on day 10 of speedrunning the artist's way. It's a 12-week course. I'm doing it in 12 days, just to see what it's like and if it's something that I would like to commit for the full 3 months sometime. And the moment I'm leaning towards no, I don't think I'll ever do the course in the 12 weeks that it's supposed to be done in. And I am getting a little bit tired of it. And of course, partially this is because I am speedrunning it. Obviously, I've been doing it very intensely for 10 days at this point, and I'm getting a bit fatigued. That's normal. But I don't think that's the only reason. I think by chapter 10, it's getting very repetitive, and perhaps this is by design. Perhaps Julia Cameron, the author, is trying to get you to see the stuff that keeps coming up. That's very important. For example, in this chapter, she talks about competition and how that's not helpful for artists. And it's basically the same as the concept of jealousy a few chapters ago. She's kind of making the same points about jealousy and about competition, about the idea that you think that because someone else has something, they've taken it away from you, so to speak, that we can't both have it. And if, like me, you didn't really resonate with the stuff about jealousy, if that's not really something that's been a big issue for you, then again, you're having another chapter talking about competition and how everybody must always want others to fail so that they may succeed, which I mean, not really. And even the actual tasks are quite similar. There's a lot of writing lists. Of course, a lot of the course itself is prompts and journaling, and that's what it is. But there's so many lists, and I've kind of glanced ahead because I'm going to be traveling over the next couple of days. So I kind of looked ahead as to, do I need to pack anything to be able to do any of the tasks? And I don't really need to pack anything because it's more lists. I just need a piece of paper and write down more lists. And there aren't really that many tips on how to implement any actions. Maybe there will be in chapter 11 and 12, but as it is, I'm just writing list after list and I don't really know what to do with them. They're just piling up. And she keeps saying to post some lists or sentences or pictures or whatever where you can see them on your desk. I mean, if you're doing this with a full 12 weeks and doing every task, by the end of this, your desk will just be covered in bits of paper. You won't know what's what anymore. Perhaps the idea is that by having the practice of the morning pages and getting used to being honest with yourself and so on, that when an action emerges from one of the lists, you will just start doing it. You'll just start implementing in your life because you won't be able to ignore it anymore. But this book is aimed at blocked creatives, so it feels like we need a little bit more guidance on how to actually start implementing changes rather than just writing list after list after list of things that we're not happy with or that we would like to change or that we aspire to and so on, without any concrete plan as to what to do about it. There's even a prompt that literally says, make a certain number of promises to yourself, then keep them. That's it. There's no further guidance as to how you're supposed to do something that you've presumably struggled with in the past if you are someone who has creative ideas but hasn't been able to act on them. This chapter also explores workaholism, and I think there's some interesting stuff in there probably if you are a workaholic. I don't believe that I necessarily am. In this chapter, there's a workaholism quiz, and this may not bother a single other person on earth, but there is a workaholism quiz, and there's 20 questions, and each one you can answer in 3 ways. Seldom, often, never. First of all, that's not the right order. It should be never, seldom, often, or often, seldom, never. Seldom, often, never. Doesn't make sense. That's fine. Every question is supposed to be answered seldom, often, never. And therefore, logic would dictate that at the end you can add up how many seldoms, how many oftens, and how many nevers you've circled, and you add it up and you get a score for how workaholic you are. Right? No. Some questions often means that you are a workaholic, and some other questions often means that you are not a workaholic. Some of the questions are, how often do you take work with you when you go out socially? Often would mean that you are a workaholic. And other times is, do you give yourself enough free time between projects? If you answer often, then that means that you are not a workaholic. So why have the same 3 answers for all of them if you can't add them up at the end? And there's a lot more of the leading prompts. It's been a thing for the whole book so far, and a lot of them are quite negative as well. I'll have more thoughts about this when I make, next week sometime, I'll make a recap video. And this is something that has been bothering me, and I've actually looked up what other people have been saying about it. And there are some people that have found the negativity in the book really detrimental to their mental health. I'm lucky enough to be in a stable enough place with my mental health that it doesn't seem to really affect me. But I have noticed that so many of the prompts really encourage you to really dig out kind of very negative stuff, and then don't necessarily, in my opinion, give you the tools to deal with it. Anyway, the leading prompts continue, where basically she's just trying to get you to come to a very specific revelation, whether that's appropriate for you or not. So in this chapter, that's the deadlies. The deadlies, things that block your creativity, are alcohol, drugs, sex, work, money, food, and family and friends. And she believes that all of us, to some extent, are blocked by these things. And she makes us list 5 ways in which each of these things affect us negatively, affect our creativity negatively. And you're supposed to draw each one of them out and write about whichever one comes out. And if one comes out more than once, it's a sign or something. And the book says, if the one you choose seems inapplicable to you, consider this resistance. This is resistance, and you should double down. What do you mean? Some of these may genuinely not apply to some people. Not everybody has an issue with alcohol, drugs, sex, and etc., right? However, especially the morning pages, as I already mentioned yesterday, they're definitely doing something, and just dedicating this amount of time to journaling and answering prompts surrounding my creativity, it's doing something. Today I played the piano a little bit, which I hadn't done in months, and I also did this silly thing of, there are these 2 songs, Wolf by First Aid Kit and More to This by Mark Shabilia, that every time I hear one, it reminds me of the other one, so I sang them at the same time, like I sang one over the other. So I guess I'm being more creative, but I'm ready to move on. I'll stick it out for the final 2 days because I've got this far. But as I mentioned, I am traveling. I'm going back home to Italy tomorrow for a few days. So I'm not really sure what form the video will take, the videos will take for the next few days. But I will still try and upload daily. So thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow, whatever shape that takes, and good night.